Hello. I'm studying game development with you guys. In this video, let's learn about basic variables used in programming and a property, a characteristic of Unreal programming. First of all, variables in programming are simply to store values and states, such as, for example, a character's health, attack power, and attack speed in a game. It stores various kinds of values necessary for a game or program. And in general programming languages, variable types are divided according to the types of values they can contain. The most basic types of variables are regular integers such as 0, 1, 2, 3, real numbers such as 3.14 and 1.5, strings such as hello, and hi, and logical variables expressed as true and false. Of course, there are several classes provided by Unreal Engine, and containers that can handle other variables as a group are also used as variables, but in this video, we will cover the most basic variables first. So let's first launch Unreal Engine and create a new project. Let's set the category to games, and choose a completely empty default template without any other code. And change the project type to C++ and then create the project. When a project is created, a C++ class is created by inheriting the actor class as we learned in the previous video, Introduction to Unreal Programming. For the name of the class, we will use myActor, which is recommended by Unreal Engine as the default. After you create a C++ class, it will first open the .cpp file for that class. To create a variable, that is, a member variable, that an object of a class owns, you must go to the classes.h file, that is, the header file. Move to myActor.h, the header file for the newly created myActor. First of all, to create and use a variable in a C++ class in Unreal Engine, write the variable type and a name to recognize the variable in the header file of the class where the variable is to be created. In general C++ programming, variable declaration ends by declaring the variable type and variable name like this. In addition to this, in Unreal C++ programming, a macro called UPROPERTY is attached to use the value of this variable in the editor. This is the basic type of variables used in most Unreal programming. This UPROPERTY macro is for properties to notify Unreal Engine and the editor that these properties exist, and to specify how the property behaves when associated with the engine. The specifiers you can put in the UPROPERTY macro, we'll have time to clean up later. Now let's take a closer look at the basic variable types discussed earlier. As mentioned earlier, basic variable types include integer, real number, string, and logical variable. Let's explain each variable type by slowly unraveling it again. First, integers are types used to represent general numbers such as 0, 1, 2, and 3. For those of you who have learned C++ to some extent, the first types that come to mind when talking about integer types are short, int, and long. However, since these basic types can have different lengths for each platform, Unreal Engine provides int8, int16, int32, and int64 types with fixed lengths. The number appended to the int indicates how many bits are used to represent the integer. Int8 represents an integer, and 8 bits can be used to represent numbers from 127 to -128, and int16 can represent numbers from 16 bits to 32,767 to -32,768. And int32 is expressed with 32 bits from 2,146,480,647 to -2,146,480,648. Int64 has 64 bits and can represent a whopping 9,223,372,036,854,775,807 -9,223,372,036,854,775,808. And if the variable does not need to represent a negative number, you can use uint8, uint16, uint32, or uint64 by adding a u in front of each type name. Then, all bits are used to represent the positive number, and each number mentioned above expands the range by twice the maximum representable number. 0 to 255 for uint8, 0 to 65,535 for uint16, 0 to 4,294,967,295 for uint32, and 0 to 18 quintillion 446 quadrillion 744 trillion 073 billion 709 million 551,615 for UInt64. When using integer types, you just need to think carefully about the range of numbers you need to decide which type to use. If I thought that a number in the range of 127 to -128 would be used, and I used the int8 type, but it was out of the expectation that if 1 is added to 127, it becomes -128, and if 1 is subtracted from -128, it becomes 127. In programming, this is called overflow and underflow. Occasionally, in some games, you may find that you have been collecting items or money hard, but at some point suddenly it becomes 0 or negative. That's exactly what happens because of this. Of course, to prevent this from happening, you would think that it would be okay to just use int64, but the memory use doubles every time you step up from int8. Therefore, to optimize the game, it is necessary to use the appropriate range of types. And if you can't rule out the possibility of exceeding that range, it's better to prevent it from going out of that range through exception handling. Next is the type that represents real numbers such as 0.1, 3.14, and 1.5. Types that represent real numbers are float and double, just like in general C++. A float is 32-bit and a double is 64-bit in size. In general, floats have a precision of up to 5 decimal places, and doubles have a precision of up to 10 decimal places. When making games, you usually use floats and only use doubles when you need a more precise representation of real numbers. And it's a string. A string literally means a set of characters. Usually in C++ you use std string. And in C#, which is often used in Unity, we use the string class. However, Unreal C++ provides strings in several classes depending on your needs. The most basic type is the f-string type. It is a type that automatically changes the length of a variable according to the length of the character to be stored, and operates similarly to the basic C++ std string. Usually, in std string or C# string, when inserting a string directly into a string variable, use double quotation marks to create a constant string and insert it, but in f-string, you must use the text macro. In addition, there are ftext, which is used for localized text, and fname, which is used to save memory and CPU time when comparing strings by designating frequently used strings as identifiers. And there's also char, which is used to store strings independent of the set of strings that may differ from platform to platform. Types other than f-string may be needed later or will be covered in the Unreal string related video. And finally, a logical variable that has only true or false values can be declared as type bool. Now let's declare some properties with the types we just learned. Create total damage with int32 type, damage time in seconds, and damage per second with float type, character name with f-string type, and bat-hackable property with bool type. And I'll show you how to specify the public scope of a variable. Variable public scope refers to how far variables belonging to this class are displayed. It's talking about whether you want to show it to everyone so that it can be accessed from outside the class, or if you want to show this class only to the child classes it inherits from, or whether you want to show it to anyone or anyone else and use it only inside this class. Public is what is visible to everyone outside the class. Protected is only visible to child classes that inherit the class. Private is used only inside the class without showing it to the outside. This public scope works the same for functions. For reference, those who learned C# with Unity would have used private, protected, and public directly in front of the variable name like this when specifying the public scope. But in C++, you have to write it separately like this at the beginning and put a colon at the end. If you write an access specifier like this, you have the public scope of that specifier from the colon of the access specifier until the next specifier appears. That is, the variables and functions from here to here become public, the beginPlay function protect, and the tick function become public again. And if you put a private access specifier in the middle of the variables, it becomes private from here to here, so it cannot be accessed from outside the class. For reference, in Unity C#, if you make a variable public, it will be made public in the inspector view of the Unity editor. However, in Unreal Engine, making a variable public in a script doesn't make it public in the details panel. Next, let's see how to make the declared variable visible in Unreal Editor. First, let's put the UPROPERTY macro in front of each variable. The UPROPERTY macro, as mentioned earlier, is to tell Unreal Engine and the editor that these properties exist, and to specify how they behave when connected. First of all, the properties will not be visible in Unreal Editor when the UPROPERTY macro is empty. To make a property visible in the editor, you need to put the necessary specifiers in the UPROPERTY macro. There are many types of specifiers for the UPROPERTY macro, but let's start with the most basic ones. Add edit anywhere. Blueprint read write. Category equals damage to total damage UPROPERTY macro. To explain what each specifier means, edit anywhere means you can edit it in the properties window of both the archetype and the instance placed in the level. Note that archetype refers to the source of a blueprint that has not yet been instantiated. Blueprint read write means that this property can be both read and written in blueprints. And category equals damage means that the blueprint edit tool or details panel shows this property grouped into a category called damage. And category equals damage means that the blueprint edit tool or details panel shows this property grouped into a category called damage. Enter the same content in the UPROPERTY macro of damage time in seconds. Then, in the UPROPERTY macro of damage per second, put blueprint read only, visible anywhere, transient, category equals damage specifiers. Blueprint read only makes properties read only in blueprints. Visible anywhere makes properties visible in all properties windows but not editable. Transient means that the property is not stored as a volatile property. Let's set the other two properties, character name and bat hackable, to edit anywhere and blueprint read write. First, let's check how these properties look in the editor. To apply the modified code to the editor, return to the editor and type libcoding.complete in the console command window at the bottom of the editor or press the Ctrl-Alt-F11 shortcut key to compile. After compiling, place MyActor of the C++ class in the world, select it, and view it in the details panel. You can see that the properties grouped in the damage category are grouped in the damage category, and the properties that are not are in the MyActor category, the class name. And unlike other properties specified with edit anywhere, the damage per second property specified with visible anywhere is displayed in dark gray, so you can see that it cannot be modified. Now let's go back to the script editor and learn how to set default values for properties. In Unreal programming, when the game starts or when an object is created, you set the value of a variable to some desired value in a constructor function. Constructor functions have no return type in Unreal C++ classes and have the same name as the class name. As mentioned in the last video, this constructor function is called once when an object of a class is created, and as just described, it is mainly used to set properties of the created actor, that is, the default values of variables. Let's set the default value of the property in this constructor. First, let's go to the source file of the MyActor class and work in the MyActor constructor. There are two ways to initialize a property here. The first way is to put a colon next to the constructor, write the name of the property, and put the default value in parentheses. And the second method is to assign the default value in the body of the constructor. You can use your preferred method of these two methods. If you enter values in the constructor like this, go back to Unreal Editor and compile, you can see that each value of MyActor placed in the world is changed to the default value entered in the constructor. In this video, you learned the basics of variables and UPROPERTY macros in Unreal C++ programming. In the next video, we will learn about functions and U-function macros. This video was produced with the support and watching of the viewers. It was Vers Game Development YouTube. Thank you.